Hello and welcome to New Mexico Rising. My name is Dan. You know, I like to bring people from all across the country to talk about cool things that you could do right here in New Mexico, ways to help you out, and celebrities. Yeah, a little later in the show, I talked to the cast of the movie Joyride, which is in theaters right now in a raunchy, fun kind of comedy. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Plus, if you're thinking about doing an Airbnb to make some extra coin for this summer, I got someone that's going to give us some advice and tips. And a little later, the paradox of debt. Yes, the writer of this book, Richard Vague, is going to be Skyping in with us or talking with us all right here on the show we like to call New Mexico Rising. You know that summer is here. It's time for us to get out and travel a little bit more. And some of us find ourselves staying home and making a little money off of those travelers. And luckily, since summer is here, teachers and educators have an opportunity to earn that extra income by hosting on Airbnb. And join us now to talk about that and share her experience being a super host for Airbnb is Katy Severe. Thanks for joining us on the show, Katy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dan?
Doing fabulous. All right, Katy. So you're the host of an Airbnb in Iowa, which I might come visit because I've never been to Iowa and I want to come hang out with you. Can you tell us how you started and what it's like being a host on Airbnb?
Yeah. In 2019, we bought our dream home and it came with a mother-in-law suite in the basement. At the time, we didn't really need that extra space, but then the pandemic hit and it became a temporary classroom. And then after that, we just decided, you know, it would be nice to earn a little bit of extra money. Let's just try listing it on Airbnb. We'll see, you know, try it out for a couple months, see what we think. And now close to 2 years later, we don't really have any plans to stop.
All right. From your experience, what are some of the financial benefits of listing a space on Airbnb?
For everyone's, you know, it's going to be a little bit different depending on different factors. But for us, it has allowed me to work part-time and to pursue some educational interests. I was able to start my own tutoring business and then also just to spend some more time with my family. So that extra income has been a real blessing for us.
So what are your top tips for any educators considering hosting during the summer break?
Yeah, the summertime is a great time to get started just because we probably have a little bit more time on our hands. And also people are traveling a little bit more too. So if you have a spare bedroom or some guest space, it's a great thing to consider. I think as teachers, we bring a lot to the table as a host. We are detail oriented and we, you know, really good with communication skills. We can multitask. If we can handle a room full of kids, I think we can handle, you know, hosting a couple people in our house. So I think it's a great thing for educators to think about doing. I also have just really enjoyed showing people a different side of Iowa, you know, that we're more than just a state to drive through to get somewhere else. So that has been a really fun experience.
As an Airbnb host, I know there's a lot of resources for you to go to like meet and learn about hosting tips and tricks like on Facebook groups and what type of resources do you jump into to kind of become a better host for the people in your community that come rent from you?
Yeah, some of the Facebook groups have been really helpful. You know, you kind of learn a lot of things of what not to do, and then also some things, you know, to be proactive. But if people, you know, are interested in finding out some more information, Airbnb.com/host is a great place to go. You can kind of calculate how much you might earn. You can connect with other hosts. There's some FAQs on there. So that's a really good starting place.
All right, one more time, where can anyone that is interested in hosting go for more information?
Yeah, that Airbnb.com/host would be a perfect place to start.
And thank you very much, Katy, for joining me this morning. You are a hero and super host.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great day.
And I'm going to come visit you. That's I'm making it. I'm making it happen. Send me your Airbnb link. I'm booking it now.
Okay, thanks.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much, Katy, for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Dan.
After being diagnosed with early breast cancer, EBC stages 1 through 3, most patients hope for a cure, yet the risk of their cancer returning is a persistent and lifelong worry after treatment. For many, It is a priority to do everything they can to help minimize the risk of their cancer recurrence while still living their life to the fullest and enjoying doing the things they love. There is a new therapy that has lowered the risk of cancer recurrence by 25% across a broad population diagnosed with stages 2 and 3 hormone receptor positive. And today we have Nikita Shah, medical doctor of medical oncology team, leader for the Breast Cancer Center at the Orlando Health Cancer Institute, here to talk about it. Welcome to the show, doctor. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so what does the risk of recurrence mean for patients with HR plus HR2 EBC?
So with early stage breast cancer that is hormonally driven, so hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative, when we do upfront surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, endocrine therapy, it's curative. But in a percentage of patients, the cancer will come back. Higher the stage of diagnosis, higher is the risk of recurrence. So that's where we look to say, what can we do to further reduce the risk of this cancer ever coming back?
So what are some of the current gaps EBC patients face when addressing their risk of recurrence?
It is this very risk of recurrence that currently we do everything that we know of, but still there's a percentage of patients where the cancer will come back. And that's where, where there's a lot of research going on to say, let's reduce the risk of recurrence, because once there is a recurrence, once there is metastases, there are treatments that will help prolong life, but they're not curative at this point.
All right. Well, can you tell us more about the NATALEE data presented at ASCO?
So NATALEE clinical trial was a large trial with over 5,000 postmenopausal women with early stage breast cancer that was hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative. Patients got their definitive treatment, including surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and then were placed on endocrine therapy. And half the patients on the trial were then randomized to get a CDK4/6 inhibitor called ribociclib. Ribociclib is currently approved in the metastatic disease setting, where it has shown to improve survival and reduce the risk of disease progression. So this trial was looking to say, what can we do to further reduce the risk of recurrence in this early stage population? And what we saw was a 25% reduction in the risk of recurrence with the addition of ribociclib. What we also saw that the very favorable safety profile that we've seen in the metastatic disease trials was also seen here. There were no new safety signals that were identified, and the most common side effects were neutropenia and liver dysfunction. So this was a very well tolerated option with a significant reduction in the risk of recurrence.
So where can viewers go for more information? NATALEEtrial.com, NATALEE trial.com. Well, thank you, Dr. Shah, for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And coming up next, a man heard that he has 7 years to live, and he's on our show to talk about it. All right, here on New Mexico Rising. Welcome back to New Mexico Rising. My name is Dan. How would you feel if someone just told you you had about 7 years to live? Well, today, Jason Tharp is an award-winning speaker, author, and illustrator. And in July 2021, Jason had a seizure that led doctors to discover a tumor. And doctors diagnosed him with glioblastoma multiforme, a rare form and aggressive form of cancer, but the most common type of primary brain cancer in adults. And as part of his treatment plan, Jason currently uses tumor treating fields, that's TT fields therapy, which uses electric fields to disrupt cancer cell division, potentially causing cancerous cells to die while sparing some of those healthy cells. And today we have physician Dr. Lukas and Jason here to talk about treatments and the exciting technology available for patients with this disease. Welcome to the show, you two. Jason, Dr. Lukas, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Doing well. Thanks.
All right. Can you guys explain to me, because I'm not that smart, what is GPM and how prevalent is this type of brain cancer among Americans? And what are some of the common symptoms?
Sure. So glioblastoma multiforme, which is long for GBM, is the old term that we now use to describe something called glioblastoma IDH wild type in the World Health Organization classification system. What it is it's a primary brain tumor. primary just means it starts in the brain. So it's different than, say, lung cancer that has spread to the brain, which is metastatic brain tumor. It falls into a big camp of tumors called infiltrating gliomas. These are tumors that are interwoven with the good, healthy brain. So it's something that grows over time and can progress and spread throughout the nervous system. It is a tumor that is diagnosed in about 15,000 individuals in the United States every single year, and oftentimes will present with both localizable and or non-localizable symptoms. So people, depending on where the tumor is located, may have a variety of deficits. They can have weakness, they can have language problems, they can have personality changes, they may have seizures, or they may have things that are hard to localize. And this is due to increased pressure intracranially, causing headaches, oftentimes associated with nausea and vomiting, and sometimes double vision.
So what are the latest treatments and therapies available to treat GBM?
The way that we oftentimes will treat this is initially with maximum safe surgical resection. So we want to make sure it's safe so the patients have no additional deficits afterwards, and ideally some of their symptoms are alleviated with that surgical procedure. The surgeon will then provide us tissue that can be interrogated to make the diagnosis, investigated at the molecular level nowadays, and then that removes a bunch of tumor cells. And then this is usually followed up with radiation therapy that's given in a fractionated manner, so it's broken up Monday through Friday. You get a small dose every day to a large cumulative dose, and this is performed concurrently with an oral chemotherapy, something called temozolomide. Patients then usually get a short break and then start cycles of this temozolomide in conjunction with tumor treating fields, which are alternating electrical fields that are delivered by a set of arrays applied directly to the scalp.
And Jason, can you share a little bit about your personal story about being diagnosed with GBM and how your treatment plan has impacted your life?
Absolutely. Like Dr. Lukas explained, for me, it started with the seizure. Having never had a seizure before, I go to the ER, which has a CT scan followed up by MRI. Then a neurosurgeon, after they discovered where the tumor was, came in, was very confident that he could remove the tumor. So I went under surgery. In my case, I was very lucky that there was a full resection, which means they were able to get all of the tumor. Just as Dr. Lukas explained, chemo radiation was what followed, and then you're kind of left looking for some sort of what role, hope essentially is what you're looking for. How can you change the outcome of this? And that led me to search things in a different way. I think a lot of times when we get diagnosed with things, we go to Google and we are hit with all the bad stuff. I decided to search glioblastoma good news, which led me to novacure.com in the TT field, which I wear the device myself, and start to address the mental aspect of things. What roles do I play in this? What is it? How can I eat better? How can I find, I'm the captain of this team. How can I find the right co-captains around me? Making sure that all the docs are on the same page as me, that we're going to break this thing that's called impossible. And how can we do that? And instead of trying to predict the future that is saying what everybody else is saying, how can I write a present story that is going to make the future outcome the way I would like to do it, and stop living in a past that I can't change, but I can control the things that are happening to me every single day.
All right, Dr. Lukas, what should people know, or if they have a loved one that is diagnosed with GBM?
I would use Jason's analogy of the captain/co-captain. And I think finding the appropriate co-captain can be a benefit. As an academic neuro-oncologist, I'm clearly biased. I think that there is an advantage to seeing somebody who treats these tumors all day long and knows them quite well in helping advise the patients on what those next steps would be. Ideally, a lot of the care can be delivered closer to home with oversight by somebody who does this all day long for a living. I think the other important point that I would stress is that this is a field that's constantly moving forward. It's constantly in evolution, and we're anticipating that we're going to make important gains in the near and medium term.
So where can people go for more information about all of this?
The American Brain Tumor Association is one that comes to mind. They can provide patient and family members information about these tumors. If you want to learn more about the tumor treating fields, which Jason is using, then novacure.com is a legitimate source of information.
All right. Well, Dr. Lukas, Jason, thank you too for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome back to New Mexico Rising. My name is Dan, and today we have a very special guest to hang out with us. You know, when politicians and people talk about debt and its impact on the economy, that always kind of means government debt. But you know, private debt has a huge impact on the overall economy. In his new book, The Paradox of Debt by venture capitalist and author Richard Vague, we learn how the many issues of private and public debt kind of influence the economy overall. Richard Vague most recently served as the Secretary of Banking and Securities for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Richard. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm well, thanks.
All right. What is one thing people don't really know about debt?
Well, as I write in Paradox of Debt, most people don't know that debt actually creates wealth. In the pandemic, a $6 trillion increase in government debt created $31 trillion in new household wealth. Government debt is money paid to households, but most went to the wealthy, so inequality increased too.
So why does it seem that debt is always growing? You know, student debt is a big and economic political issue. So what do you suggest from your opinions?
Well, we just saw that Biden's student debt plan got shut down by the Supreme Court. So debt remains a challenge for the 43 million Americans with a student loan. In the Paradox of Debt, I propose student debt forgiveness based on volunteer work for a qualified not-for-profit. It's an approach that everybody would win.
Are there other major debt sources that are in need of change?
Well, as Paradox of Debt shows, there are a lot of mortgage payment problems coming out of the pandemic. We suggest a program where troubled borrowers can elect to get principal reduction and payment reduction in exchange for giving their lenders some of the gain on the eventual sale of the home. It's a win-win proposition.
So what are some of the other solutions that are found in the Paradox of Debt?
U.S. bankruptcy laws could use some help and some revision. As Paradox of Debt shows, they're clumsy, counterproductive, and in some respects, they hurt borrowers rather than help them get back to a healthy place. Better laws could help borrowers and lenders.
So how do you feel that your ideas in your book, and how do you think they can make a difference?
Well, if you read Paradox of Debt, you'll be much better informed as a voter and in a better place to judge your own personal financial decisions. The Paradox of Debt shows a path to a vibrant economy by tackling the issues of debt and inequality. It offers practical policies and solutions.
Where can we go for more information and be able to pick up your book there, Richard?
Thanks for asking. We can go to paradoxofdebt.com or richardvague.com.
Well, thanks for joining me this morning. Check it out, Paradox of Debt. It's available now. Thank you for joining me this morning, Richard.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next, the cast of Joyride on New Mexico Rising. Welcome back to New Mexico Rising. My name is Dan, and you know it's that season, travel season. It's the perfect time to get out of town, meet new people, and experience things that you've never done before. And you know, the best part of traveling to somewhere new is that you can have a little more fun, depending on how much you lower your inhibitions. Well, if you're not in the mood or don't have enough cash to travel out in the world, you know the next best thing to actual travel is watching a travel movie. Yep. And luckily for you, I have the cast members from the new film Joyride ready to help you travel all the way to China for the price of a movie ticket. Plus, you don't have to lower your inhibitions this time because comedy has all the raunchy fun already included, and plus lowering your inhibitions at your local theater is kind of frowned upon. So let's welcome to the show Ashley Park and Sherry Cola from the new movie in theaters right now, Joyride. How are you two?
Oh, wow, Dan. Wow, you're absolutely right. You know, Joyride is the trip of a lifetime without the motion sickness.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a little bit of that, but not for the audiences.
All right, can you just give us a little bit, what is this movie actually all about?
Oh,
I mean, I think the basic log line is that my character, Audrey, she's adopted and she's grown up in a white community. Her best childhood friend is Lolo, and they're two of the only Asian people in town. But Audrey's a very successful lawyer and has to go to China to close a business deal, and brings along Lolo, who's this free-spirited best friend, as her translator. And Audrey's roommate, Kat, played by Stephanie Hsu, is in China, and Lolo's...
Deadeye, my cousin, played by Sabrina Wu.
And that's the ensemble, and everything that could possibly go wrong does. And every decision they could possibly make is possibly not the right decision at times.
It's bad.
So it is a huge adventure, rated R, raunchy comedy, and there's also a lot of heart in it.
Yeah. So much fun.
And honestly, this sounds like what happens to me almost every single time I go to the grocery store. So going to China, going on a joyride like that seems pretty extreme. It explores themes of adventure, self-discovery, friendship. How do you think the movie reflects these themes, and like what messages that you hope that these audience are going to take away from this movie?
You know, Ashley just brought up the fact that people are going to be at the theaters watching this with strangers is almost like a bonding experience. You know, I think what this film shows is that you could have chosen family. You know, everyone can just like enjoy and have fun and let loose.
Yeah.
I think that's something I've learned from this film for
sure.
To
be in watching it with live audiences now in crowds of people, it's just like to have that kind of euphoric and cathartic laughter and also tears is like the best kind of feeling, and it's been honestly a real joy to be able to now share it with the world.
To just not feel alone, I guess. That's one of the big themes in this film. Yeah.
And Joyride is kind of like a road trip with a central element of the story. Did you guys enjoy filming on location, and how did it kind of impact your performances?
Oh, it was so much fun. We were in Vancouver, aka China, and Korea,
and we really
Washington.
had to we had so much trust with each other and the crew, and Adele and Sherry and Teresa and Point Grey and Lionsgate, so we could really go, as some would say, balls to the wall. And I mean, I think the first scene that we filmed is in the trailer, and it's a scene where we are on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, kicked off a train because we've just had an interaction, a hefty one with a drug dealer.
So straight into it.
So really straight into it. I think Sabrina was running into a bog, eating a cattail. There's a lot of stuff happening.
A lot going on.
And so we really had to go full throttle from day one.
Yeah, we really had fun with it.
Last time someone told me I had to go balls to the wall, they handed me a staple gun, and it was a really awkward situation.
So, a staple gun?
I saw the video. Has the bleeding stopped?
Yeah, no, it happened. It was all part of the job. It happens, you know.
Okay.
Your characters have like this friendship in the film. How did you guys develop the chemistry and dynamic between your two characters? And what do you think makes their friendship in the movie a little more unique?
I think what's so fun is that we've had that feedback from a lot of people in terms of our chemistry in particular, and we're so happy about that. But until people started saying that, I never even thought about our chemistry because it was such a given from the very first moment we even interacted, whether it be like online or like at our chemistry reads over Zoom in our auditions. But it's just been really easy, and I think that we've both come up in this industry and been so happy to always play supporting roles. So we're so used to, in muscle memory, being a supporting character to each other. So it was just like the most generous scene partner, always taking care of each other, and also just so funny too. So the hardest thing with Sherry and me was that if we started laughing, it was over. I think we might have lost a couple scenes that were probably really great, but it's because we couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, we're definitely the kids in the back of the class, just like who won't stop giggling.
Peanut gallery,
Yeah, but this is just authentic chemistry on screen and off, and we're very, very lucky.
All right, and Ashley, you've done things in theater and television. How does your experiences in those mediums kind of translate to acting as one of the main roles in Joyride?
Yeah, I think that what's kind of magical, you know, Sherry comes from radio, TV, and stand-up comedy, and my heart is and roots is in theater and such. So I think that what it was helpful is I think having a movie in a theatrical release, that's what I miss most about the theater, having that live audience. Like, the audience is our scene partner, and having that in the room is what I missed from theater. But I think it's that I just, first of all, learn, and we have to, when you watch the movie, there's a lot of stuff that we have to do. And some of it's like grueling trauma bonding and physical labor. And I think that it was all so fun because in the theater, on Broadway, I did 8 shows a week. And almost never had time off. So I worked 6 days out of the week. So I think that having that background and that work mentality for all of us just made this just a real blast.
Yeah.
And Sherry, you and I have the same background, stand-up comedy, radio, all that other good stuff. How did you approach the comedic elements of your character and bring that to the film?
Listen, it actually brings up so many good points because, choosing to do stand-up comedy is masochism, it's almost like we've been training to be leads of this movie. All of our skills, all of this little, the Swiss Army knife, if you will. I think being a stand-up is truly a superpower on a set. I've always been really proud of it, and the fact that we do crowd work, with a live audience.
Also, you have to think fast for both theater and stand-up. It's like when you're in front of a live audience, if something goes wrong, you got to think fast and you got to make something work.
So that's definitely how we were well equipped for this film, and I think we've become sharper, comedic actors from this film as well. And it was just such a cool playground, with so much trust, of course, between us and Cherry, Teresa, and Adele, and Point Grey, Lionsgate. So we just really got to be ourselves because the foundation was such a safe space, All
right. Well, thank you two for joining me this morning. And as for the balls to the wall, I was working at bingo, so I had to staple this giant bingo board to the wall, and they're throwing balls at it. So that's why they call it. Yeah, it wasn't that weird. It was all part of the job.
Yeah.
All right, check out Joyride. It's in theaters now. Ashley, Sherry, you two are awesome. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Take care.
And that was it for the show, New Mexico Rising. I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of it, because tuning in right here on KRQE every Sunday morning at 5:30 a.m. helps me out, and it helps my team out, and Baby Cat's out. So if you want to be part of the show, all you got to do is email me, newmexicorising@gmail.com. Tell me about some events, your small business. If you just want to sit here silently next to me while we're doing the show and you could be on TV, I'll even do that too. Just email me, newmexicorising@gmail.com. And do you know what? I'm going to probably do that this next week. If I just want to find, wow, a mosquito attacking me. I want to find somebody to sit next to me the entire show silently, and that would be very funny. Till next week, that was New Mexico Rising. Oh yeah, and make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook and all that other good stuff. We love you. All right, get back to the credits.